Hey YouTube, it's Taki with TaqiTech. This is episode 8 in the Complex Timesheet series. This episode's title is Small Steps to a Break. So basically we're going to talk about what we're going to do to start programming our breaks. And what I have here is a model basically. And we talked about this before, and it's very important that you model things in order to kind of understand what is going on. Now, basically there's two steps that are going to occur here, and the two steps are, the first step is actually several small steps, so I guess it's better to say two sections maybe. The first section is, it's called basically loading the breaks, and that is something, if the world were simple and all we had was one break at 10 o'clock, it could be done without even having to load the breaks. Because basically what we need to do is we need to take a look at how can we get to 10 o'clock here and how can we get to 10:30 here. And this 2:30 and 6 a.m. are already there. And that would be done quite simply by just, if we need to get to this cell here, we would just take a look at, let's take a look at Superstar real quick, the actual sheet instead of the model. So if we need to get G2, all we need to do is print this. So all we need to say is G2 equals B6. Then there would be a small calculation that we would have to do for H2. We would say H2 equals B6 plus C6. And that's kind of what I wrote here in the model. We're not anticipating, if things are that simple, there would be no reason for me to really write this sheet. Things are a little bit more complicated, and we are expecting to have more than one break. So my proposal at this point, as I think about it, is we'd create an array. And we'll talk more about arrays once I actually start writing the code. But basically, an array is a series of variables that are tied together. I don't really know how else to describe it. I think the best way to kind of look at an array is like one column in a table. Let's say you see me here highlighting L. So basically L, let's say I had 5 elements in the array. We'd have L in rows 1 through 5. That's the best way to look at an array, and they would all have different values, and it'd be easy for me to access those values because they all have the same name. The only difference is what they call the subscript, this little number in between that I could easily, do a for loop or a do loop through and easily increment that number or easily read through them. So we'll load the break times in the array, and when we take a look at the break times, what exactly are we looking at here? So when we look at at the chart here, 6 a.m. through 10 a.m. and then the actual break time will be 10 a.m. to 10:30, and then the final time will be 10:30 to 2:30, as I have written here. Now, we're running into a little bit of an issue here, and this is the reason why you model things out. It's probably not best to call it a break time. It's probably better to call it a time period. So we're going to have a time period versus a task period at some point in this project. So that's where we're at here as far as calculating them. Once we get past that, then printing them is fairly easy. It's probably require like 2 functions to get them to print, but first we're going to get our breaks loaded correctly as time periods. Now I'm going to throw a wrinkle into this. We're going to make things a little bit more complex here. When we go down to the Superstar sheet and to our complex timesheet, you see here next to these task codes, I have start time. The way I'm going to deal with a task that starts at a specific time is I'm going to load that with the other time periods and breaks. And we'll talk more about that once we get there. That's going to be like our final step before we print, or maybe I might just do some printing first. We'll dynamically print values in the G and H, and then maybe we'll add another break here, and then we'll dynamically make sure everything works, and we'll see it drop down rows, and this last out will be in the second row here. or third row, depending on how many breaks we have, so we can accommodate more breaks. Because every time we have a break, as you'll see, it's going to drop down. So that sums it up for our initial plans here. Things could change. You don't want to make plans down and you cross your T's and dot your I's and put your seal on it and it's supposed to be stamped good forever. Things don't work like that. So you need to keep them, need to have an idea of where you're going and kind of like a roadmap, so to speak, but you're not going to follow it inch by inch, mile per mile. You're just going to, you kind of know where you're going and you'll deal with things as they come up. So, thank you so much for watching. If you like this episode, please do give it a thumbs up. If you like the content on this channel, make sure you subscribe. And until next time, take it easy.